Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Feels like coming home here since I went to Auckland Girls Grammar. And I've been on this stage before. But this evening, I'm here to talk about deciphering the Auckland market, which is something that I get to talk about quite a bit, and I find it quite interesting. So tonight I'm hoping to give you some insights into how you can best utilise the data and insights that are available to help you in working out what's going on in the residential property market in Auckland. And I'll start by giving you just a brief background on QV and why you might find that some of our data and insights can be a trusted source in following the trends in the market. And I'm also going to, look at how I can help you navigate some of those headlines that can sometimes be really confusing. And also just some opportunities that our valuers are seeing for investors in the new Auckland Unitary Plan, and how it might be a little bit of a way of looking a bit differently at investing into the future as Auckland starts to grow. So, quotable value, we're New Zealand's largest valuation and property services company, and we offer innovative professional valuation and related property information services in both New Zealand and Australia. Now, I'm not sure if you know, but QV is a government state-owned enterprise, and it was created out of the former government valuation department, Valuation New Zealand, back in '98, and apparently Andrew Bruce used to work for them. And we've got 22 offices around New Zealand, from Kerikeri to Invercargill, and the majority of our people are registered valuers valuing around the country. So we've got a number of different brands. The ones that are probably most relevant to you guys, and they're up there tonight, is our QV Home Value team, and we've got William Liu down here. Some of you may have met him in the entrance there. He's one of our senior registered valuers for QV Home Value Auckland, and these guys can do market valuations for you, and we've got offices all around the country. So say you're investing in Dunedin or Hamilton, you can call QV Home Value there, and they could get you a market valuation in those areas should you need it. And I'm just going to give you a little rundown on our QV Home Guide app. If you don't know about it already, you can get that on your Apple phone or your Android. It's got a free market value estimation in there, and you can also you can stand in front of a property and plug it in, and you can also buy some other market information standing on the site that you might find that you need. Also quite good at auctions and things like that if you need stuff in a hurry. Yeah, and then we've got QV Rating Value, which a lot of people sometimes think QV is RV, CV, GV. People say my QV's gone down, my QV's gone up, and we get mixed up with the rating valuation side of our business, which is a large part of our business, and it does mean that we at any one time pretty much generate a value for every property in New Zealand, and that is not just residential, that's also rural and industrial and commercial. And that forms the basis of a lot of our property information that we have at hand, and that a lot of that is owned by the councils who are our clients in rating valuation, but it means that at any given time we can generate a market value based on percentage of sales above CVs. And then we've also got QV Rural Value, and we have a team of very, very experienced rural valuers who value all of the farms and rural properties around the country. And some of our big clients include Landcorp and some of the major holdings of land around New Zealand. And QV Cost Builder is a new arm of our stable that we took over from Rawlinson's, the Cost Construction Bible, and it's now been all put online, and it can be subscribed to. So should any of you be in the development game and need to price up jobs, QV Cost Builder can give the price of a nail up to a large piece of roofing iron, and helps its subscribers to properly price out construction jobs. And the other great thing about it is it gives me data now, and every 6 months I can track the cost of building in some of the main centres around the country, and we can see what the price of building a home is, and we're going to be able to track that over time. The QV House Price Index, which is what I tend to track the market on once a month, and I put out the latest data on this index every month, and I get to talk about what's happening all over the country, and so do our QV home value commentators in different markets, and they offer insights on the ground relating to the data. And so the QV House Price Index started in the 1980s, and it's probably the longest running data on the New Zealand housing market. You can see that nice peak. Look at it going up and up and up there. This one was something we put together a while back, so it just shows since 1989. And probably this is the bit you're all excited about me getting to, is the latest trends in the market over the summer at the moment. And you've probably all heard that values have started to slow in the Auckland region. This is my map of the whole country, and I've decided I'm going to stick to Auckland after all, but if you have any questions afterwards, want to ask me about any other places you're interested in that you may own properties or be looking at investing, then feel free. But just on the Auckland market, we have seen a quarterly slowing to 0.2% in the growth in the January statistics. So these came out on the 1st of February. So these are our latest stats, and they're in the rolling 3-month index to the end of February. So obviously this slowing has been caused by the introduction of the 40% investor LVR that came in at the beginning of October. And obviously we went straight into the Christmas period, so you've got that kind of seasonal slowdown in activity anyway, and we saw the values starting to slow, the rate of growth slow and slow and slow, and then the figures came in January, and it was 0.2 across the whole region, and we actually saw quite a few negatives. A lot of the negatives were, and this is in the quarterly 3-month figure. So year on year, there was still 12.8% growth in the Auckland market, which is, still a reasonable growth rate. And we did seem to see some of those numbers coming back in the quarterly numbers across parts of the North Shore, in fact, most parts of the North Shore, in the former Auckland City South suburbs, and also in Waitakere City and parts of Manukau City. So it's not the whole of the market that is starting to go backwards, and that's what's really interesting about it. There's some interesting trends coming out. But I've just written my New Zealand Herald Homes column that'll be published this Saturday, actually. And so I had a look at all of that, and I remembered writing that same column this time last year. And I remembered thinking, oh yeah, the market was going back. So I had a quick peek back, and remember that they bought in the 30% LVR for the Auckland region in October 2015. And then the market did exactly the same thing. It slowed, and then it actually, by this time last year, it had 19.8% year-on-year growth, so really big growth, but it was actually going backwards in the quarter to January 2016 by 0.5%. People always forget what happened a year ago, but it's interesting to remember that now, while you may be reacting and thinking, is this the peak of the market? Is it all over? Is it all going to go downhill? Let's remember a year ago, the stats were saying exactly the same thing. And in fact, they were even more negative. And there was negative growth in Waitakere City, Auckland City, Manukau City and North Shore City. this time last year. Now again, that had been caused by the introduction of the Reserve Bank's LVR restrictions for investors. So we know that this slowing is being caused by the new LVR. What we don't know is how long it's going to last and what's going to happen during 2017. So I thought I'd give you some of my thoughts on that, but first I'll just give you a little bit around some of the areas that are still rising in the Auckland market out of the latest stats. Auckland City Central is still pretty strong, which is really interesting. This time last year it had gone backwards. Some of those properties that are in the 1.25 million plus, the upper end of the market, the places like Westmere and St Heliers and Mission Bay, Remuera, some of St Mary's Bay, interestingly not Ponsonby so much, but those suburbs are really quite strong. So there's something funny going on in that those central city properties are doing really well, but what's dropping back is the lower valued suburbs and where there's a lot of investor housing stock. Places like Kelston and Ranui in the west, and even Newlands come back a bit. And some of the more affordable entry-level suburbs out in Manukau. And interesting on the North Shore, places like Forest Hill and Sunnynook that have been a favourite for a long time with people moving to New Zealand, wanting to get into that Westlake Boys zone, and they've started to come back as well. So the edge has come off, but we've got to remember we've still got $1 million average value, and after values went down a year ago, they started rising again from April. They got over that 30% LVR, and they did start to rise during the year fast enough to tick over that $1 million mark average value in September. They also... I've lost my point. Yeah, I think the key thing to remember is we've still got these really strong drivers in the Auckland market that we all know about. This record high net migration coming in, a lack of housing, and I read this week that building consents have actually slowed down a little bit, and there's not as much building coming on stream as we might have hoped, and so that supply issue will still remain. And we've also, we still have a relatively lax property tax system in this country, and with Donald Trump having got in, I've heard of quite a few Americans that I've met recently who are thinking about moving to New Zealand. I do think that our country remains sort of a safe haven, and Auckland is now on the global property market, and so is Queenstown. And then all the other areas in between with our tourism boom mean that we're going to remain a very attractive investment to foreign investors as well. So those drivers will continue to keep interest in the Auckland housing market, and most of us who commentate expect that, yes, we'll see values slow down and even drop in Auckland over the next 2 to 3 months. But then once the year cracks underway and people work out ways around their 40% deposit, that things will start to tick up again during the year. The only other factor that was different to this time last year is that they were picking interest rates to drop during the year. And despite the Reserve Bank last week keeping the official cash rate at the record low of 1.75, the banks are saying that they're going to push those mortgage interest rates up. So that is a factor that may constrain growth this year even more. And of course, this year it's a 40% deposit required, not a 30% deposit required. And of course, you will all know that that's quite a lot, quite a big jump. And so I think, well, the ratio, values are likely to still rise. They'll, if you think about before any of the LVRs, or even the first round of the 30 percenters, we had kind of 20 percentile growth in the Auckland market. Last year it came down to kind of between 12 and 16 percentile growth. So this year we could expect that it might come down even further, but we do expect there'll still be growth because of those drivers. So that's my update on that. And what I wanted to just show you here, if I can work out how to use my little thingy. Let's just have a look at the impact of these LVRs. So we had the first one, which was the 20% on all property across the country and for everyone buying. That came in Auckland in October 2013. And look what happened. Oh, the market went backwards there. People probably can't remember that, but I remember it. And then it edged up, and then they started putting the interest rates up. Do you remember when they put interest rates up 4 times and they hadn't done it for 5 years? And the market just edged back a bit and everyone said it's over, that's the peak. And that's when I freaked out and we sold my grandparents' home really cheaply and everything was doom and gloom. And then, oh, whoops, we missed out on all of that. So that's another reason not to follow the headlines so much and to think about your long-term plan and just be careful about, when you buy, making sure you've got good income streams so that you can add value and get through those tough times. I'm not supposed to be giving you property investing advice, by the way. Anyway, let's have a look. Now, here's that 30% LVR. So that was October 2015, and you can see that's this is across all the Auckland market. You can see in the lines, and you can get a copy of this online, so you can have a look at the graph. But you can see again, different parts of the city went down further than others, but everything kind of edged backwards. And then by April last year, we started to tick up again. And then now we're just starting to see it come back. And interestingly, the impact of the LVRs this time came more in July when the government announced it and the banks started adopting the new regulations ahead of the actual official date. So you can start to see that the market sort of peaked and started slowing and coming back. And these areas, Franklin and Papakura district and Rodney to the north, they're still seeing growth because they're still way more affordable, and that's sort of more of that flow-on effect that we're seeing, which is where values on the outskirts of the super city region are still going. And then if you even go further out, places like the Kaipara district are very, very strong right now. The far north district is starting to see really strong growth after being flat for a very long time. If you go south of Auckland to the Hauraki district, it's going great guns as a lot of people are saying, I'm priced out of the Auckland market, can I move to these places, can I work part-time? And so any areas we're finding within about 2 to 3 hours drive of some of the main centres that have seen really strong growth over the past few years are going up now. So it's not everywhere in the country that's going down, but that's another story. I'm speaking about Auckland. So look out for the latest qv.co.nz quarterly suburb report that will be in the Herald on the first, I think it's the second Monday of the month, so I think that's March the 8th, and that gives you all of the suburb stats that we do every quarter, which go year on year and back, and 2 years, and then all the way back to 2007. And that's a really good thing to keep an eye on because it shows you growth over time. And one of the interesting things that I always look at when I'm looking at that set of data is what the difference in value is since 2007, which is the previous peak. And what you'll see is that pretty much every suburb in Waitakere, Manukau, North Shore and Central Auckland is up over or around that 91.7% that the Auckland market is now above 2007 levels. So you've got to put it into perspective because the Wellington market's still only 27% above, and there's still parts of New Zealand that remain under 2007 levels. So in general, the Auckland market is very healthy, and over time it will no doubt go up. Now, let's have a look at my little thing here. What's next? Okay, so the Auckland Unitary Plan. Now, the valuers have been really noticing our team from QV Home Value and also QV Rating Value, who will be revaluing Auckland this year, along with valuers and a team from Auckland Council. They have to get their heads around this beast, as we all do. And some of the guys in the QV Home Value team who are out there every day are really noticing the change in the values around properties that have a higher density zoning under the unitary plan. So it may be that if you're looking for the next opportunity, you may want to have a look at some of those types of properties. And some of these can include, obviously, the terraced housing and apartment zones, but then you've also got, mixed urban, residential housing, mixed suburban, and the other opportunity is the business mix with the use where you're allowed upper level living. There's some in Takapuna, Fringe, Glen Eden, Henderson, Albany, and some other parts of the city if you want to have a look into that, because these are new opportunities in a growing city, and also you may find, even if you're buying the land and you want to even just get the resource consent in place and then pass it on to a developer, you may find that there's opportunity to add value there. And you are all in the hot seat as investors to provide housing, much needed housing in the city, and we've got to grow our city, and you guys are the ones that have got the experience, so it may be that you start setting your sights on something different than the rundown do-up in Kelston, and think about some of the opportunities that present themselves with the new unitary plan as the city grows. And then my last little thing I want to talk about is why it's in your interest to keep your rating value up to date. And this is a good time to talk about it, because if you wanted to keep your rating value up to date any other year, apart from one when a rating revaluation is taking place, it might cost you money. But this year, you can get it done as part of the process of the revaluation of the city that is going to happen. So on this, Auckland Council lead, QV, they're our client, and in some rating revaluations, we do 90% of the country, and there are other rating valuation service providers in New Zealand that do the rest of the 10, but we do work with Auckland Council on Auckland, and they lead that, but tonight we've got Janet Sanders here from his senior valuer, and she's actually a manager with Auckland QV Rating Value, so she's going to be very busy this year. And what we just wanted to talk about, and what Janet's spoken to you about, some of you earlier, is why it's really worth keeping that rating value up to date. Now, a lot of you may do improvements on your properties, refurbishments, or even renovations. And these may not require building consents. So you might put in that beautiful new bathroom and kitchen into a house that you've purchased, and do some other, you might add a room, if you're following Ron's book, by sticking up a wall to get that rent up, and that's going to add value to that home if it's a 3-bedroom, not a 2-bedroom, if it's got a new bathroom or a kitchen, if it's got a heat pump and insulation, as I'm sure you will do that for your tenants, because that adds a hell of a lot of value. So any of those sorts of things that you're doing to your property, unless you advise council or QV, we won't know that you've added that value. Now, you might say to me, I don't want put my rating value up because I'll pay more rates. And that's fine. And Janet can tell you to look on the back of your rates notice to work out what an extra 100 grand on your RV will be worth in rates. The only thing to remember is that in this day and age of automatic valuation services, which the banks tend to use a lot, and also in the estimates that people see online, and these might be potential buyers of your properties, might look on our QV Home Guide app and get an estimated market value. Now, if your RV isn't up to date and you haven't kept council or QV abreast of the improvements you've made to your property, then that won't be able to be added into your new rating value. Now, then you might, one, complain that your rating value is too low, or you might be happy, I'm not sure. But anyway, if you decide that you're of the view that it's in your interest to keep your RV up to date, then there are some things that you can do. You can contact us at QV on that 0800 number, or just go to Google rating values or QV group rating values. The website was on the previous page, so it'll be in this presentation. Or contact the council and just let us know. Send photos, send details of what you've done and the value of what you've spent on the property, and they can take that into account when they're revaluing your property for rating purposes this year. And if, for example, you go to sell your property and somebody says, you get an appraisal by an agent who says, oh, well, you know, properties are selling 35% above RV, and so it's only worth this, and you say, oh, no, but I've done all this to it since the last rating revaluation. You may decide before you go to sell it, or even before you go to the bank, that you want to get your RV up to date. Now, if you have to do this in a hurry, if you just call the number and you're in no hurry, we will eventually send a rating value around, but it might be kind of 3 to 6 months if they're in the area. Whereas if you need an urgent one, you can apply for a Section 16 and have your RV updated any time, and they'll send out a rating valuer who will do a proper inspection, see all what you've done to improve it, and you can get that within a week. So yeah. My advice, I've had a really interesting experience with this on a couple of occasions. I sold my property up in Grey Lynn last year, and I'd had it for 10 years, and it was a rental property. And over the years I'd improved it, and but none of the stuff required a consent. And so before I sold it, Janet helped me, and I went through this process of the Section 16, and it brought my RV up, which just really helped me at the point of sale. And the reason I did that is when I'd sold my home in Point Chev a couple of years earlier, it was right at the end before the 2014 rating reval, and Point Chev had gone through the roof, but my RV was really, really, really low compared to a lot of the other properties. And people were complaining about what they saw on the qv.co.nz evaluer versus what we were asking for the property. Now, the evaluers are generated on a percentage above RV that the market sits at any given time. So it wasn't that that figure's wrong, it's that my one hadn't been updated, and I had actually just made some improvements before I put it on the market, and I'd spent about 60 grand, so that wasn't being reflected, and then it was impacting when we went to market. And it was right when that first LVR kicked in and the market had gone dead overnight, and so I needed to do everything I could to sell the property for the best price, and that helped me. In a rising market, this isn't probably so important, but this might be important across your portfolio for bank purposes and stuff like that. And another one's quite interesting. Another experience I've had with this recently is in our neighbourhood in Titirangi, where we live on Scenic Drive, and the West Auckland RVs are quite low because they were set at July 1, 2014, and the Waitakere City market really took off in that 6 months before the values were all signed off, and that growth wasn't, a lot of Auckland had gone before that, but West Auckland really went then, and so the RVs were quite low when the letters came out in the November. And now they're keeping the values down lower than they actually are on some of those automated things. And again, I got in there and said, well, my RV's too low. And so again, I got the team to come out and have a look. This is a new house that I'd purchased. and I got my RV kind of up to where it should be, and now my estimated market value is about spot on exactly where it should be. Now, I'm paying more rates, but I made a choice around that, and not that much more, but you've just got to balance that. At any given time, you might find that it lets you down if you've really wanted to keep that rating value low for a long time. So it's over to you, but if you do want to do it, that's how to do it. And also, just to say, you can contact Auckland Council and they can do it for you as well. So we're just one of the providers. And actually, Janet, that's a good question for you. If you're within the old Auckland City Council, you go to Auckland Council, and if you're in the rest of Auckland, you come to QV, is that? To the right people. You can apply through the QV website and we'll direct it to the right people.